The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike. Sam, you are back. So much happened when you were gone. How you doing?
I know. I am great. I am rejuvenated. Well, honestly, I got in back from vacation really late last night. Had a bunch of flight delays, but I made it. I'm back, been following, keeping up on the news, been trying to watch Team USA where I can. I did not watch the game today, which we'll talk about at some point later on in this episode. But there are more pressing things to talk about, Mike, with the Phoenix Suns, particularly one man whose name is Tyus Jones, that we have so much to say about, so much to cover. I just want to thank everyone who's gave us the week off here and was understanding about it. Thank you for sticking with us. We are back to our regularly scheduled programming now, at least as far as I could tell.
While you were gone, the Suns made a trade. That's how it all started. They signed a player. Joe Biden was sent to a farm upstate. The Olympics started. There's a lot that happened while you were gone, man. You really picked time. It's funny because it felt like the roster was complete,
was set,
like we were done, and I was a little bit like, I don't know, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts because honestly, truthfully, behind the scenes, we haven't talked much about Tyus Jones at all. So I'm excited to talk to you about this and see where we stand because I'm not quite sure how you feel about it, and I have yet to really share, even on Discord or anywhere, how I feel about it. So this will be the first time that we're sort of getting our thoughts out there. But I did mention a trade. I want to mention how this all kind of went down because I think the order of operations is kind of interesting here. David Roddy was traded for E.J. Liddell from the Atlanta Hawks. David Roddy made, pretty significantly more than Liddell. So it seems like the Atlanta Hawks wanted David Roddy more than they wanted Liddell. Now the Suns have a smaller contract on their roster right now in Liddell because they didn't have a roster spot open that they could potentially buy out in Liddell. They can choose other guys. They can carry more players all the way into training camp. So they can choose whoever they want to cut later. But Liddell's a smaller contract. It seems pretty clear that saving money-wise, they didn't want Roddy, so they can cut someone for cheaper in Liddell. And then that means that they had a potential roster spot open to sign a minimum contract deal, if assuming they actually cut him. So when this happened already, I think for me, I was like, okay, there's something happening here, right? Something behind the scenes is happening. And then we heard some rumors about Tyus Jones. Within a day, Woj was then tweeting that the Suns were signing Tyus Jones to a minimum deal for a 1-year contract. Now, we spent a lot of time talking about free agency, you and I, on this podcast. And one of the things that we talked about is something that we referred to as like a Kelly Oubre type deal. A guy who is just sort of left behind by free agency, signed later in free agency that should probably make more than a minimum. This is an excellent example of that. And to me, besides Bud, I don't want to undersell what the upgrade could potentially be of Bud. Besides Bud, this is probably the largest addition to the Phoenix Suns in this offseason in signing Tyus Jones, who then immediately came out and called himself the starting point guard for the Phoenix Suns. So I think in a lot of ways, this was a massive surprise. We did hear some rumblings, but it was a massive surprise that the Suns were now signing a player that's pretty good, like a pretty good starting point guard here to their team for a minimum contract.
A pretty good point guard. I don't know about pretty good starting point guard, but a pretty good point guard, a good player. And to be clear, this level of talent acquisition from the Suns, who have all of the cap constraints that they do, was not something that you or I expected. If you go back a month ago to our free agent preview episode, we were talking about candidates like, we threw out like Kyle Lowry, but like we talked about like let's bring back campaign, or I threw out Dennis Smith Jr., who I think is still unsigned, because my expectation of what a minimum contract in the NBA is right now is that it would be the same as it's always been. And actually, what appears to be the case with the new CBA is that we are just I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that goes into it too. With Tyus, we know, if we believe reports, that he could have gotten more money elsewhere. And so it's very specific about, the Suns pursuing him from multiple different angles and like the specific role they were willing to offer him. So it's not just about the money, right? But we're continuing to see sort of the disappearing middle class of this NBA free agency class, and Tyus is in many ways another casualty of that. The Suns are massively benefiting because already I thought they kind of knocked it out of the park with Monte Morris. Already I sort of felt like Monte Morris in a usual year is not a minimum guy. Tyus is on another level, and I'm kind of shocked. It's going to be interesting because you're right. We've exchanged a couple of text messages back and forth over the past week, but we mostly haven't been talking. So it's going to be interesting to talk about kind of the fit, like of how we feel about this roster. Just from a talent perspective, they couldn't have done a better job, is how I feel.
Yeah, I think the conversation about this team and where it stands as far as the way the roster is constructed, I think is going to be interesting because it's kind of, from one perspective, they signed more talent, they got better on a talent perspective. I think there is a good question about the fit of how this team fits together and whether or not that is dramatically better than last year. I do think it's better, don't get me wrong. I do think it's better. I think they needed at least one point guard, and I even in the past on this podcast made the case for 2 point guards because of the possibility of Devin Booker or Bradley Beal missing time and needing another backup point guard to come off the bench. But now it appears that they're likely going to be playing with the point guard on the floor for probably at least 40 of the 48 minutes. Maybe they'll have times where Devin Booker or Bradley Beal are doing it, but it seems like they have enough guys on the roster to be doing that for a significant amount of time. But that does mean that the overall size of this team gets significantly smaller while they're on the court. Now, the thing that you have to take into context when thinking about the decision they made here was what was available to them. And really, regardless of fit, I think talent-wise, they probably signed one of the best players that's going to be signed on a minimum contract in Tyus Jones in this offseason. So they did, no matter what you look at.
I think they got the best.
Yeah. I think
I would be willing to go out on a limb and say the best, because can you think of the remaining free agents? And I know there's still guys out there, right? Like we talked about Gordon Hayward at a certain point. If we wanted a wing, he's still out. He's sort of the skeleton rotting at the bottom of the pool, in those memes right now of like, who's going to go sign Gordon Hayward?
Yeah, and I don't believe in his health. I don't trust his health enough to even think about that as a difference maker in any way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Tyus Jones is better. I mean, I don't think there's a better minimum signing in the NBA right now than Tyus Jones.
I mean, he got 6 Man of the Year votes. Just 2 seasons ago, he had 6 Man of the Year votes. One of the best backup point guards in the NBA.
I feel like everyone already knows this because, again, I know we're coming late to this. This happened several days ago. You guys have probably listened to other podcasts or read articles about it. But like Tyus Jones, just in case you don't know the stats, this is a guy who started every game last season, 66 games, but he played 29 minutes a game. He averaged 12 points, 7.3 assists to 1 turnover. He was ninth in the entire NBA in assists per game as a guy whose best partners in terms of who could give him an assist were Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole, and he was ninth in assists in the entire league as a guy who played less than 30 minutes a game. He is a very, very good facilitator. And on top of that, 49% from the field, 41% from deep. That was a career high.
His best shooting.
80%. 80% for the free throw line. I'll be honest right now, Tyus Jones, as we kind of talk about the nitty-gritty of his game, doesn't really get to the free throw line.
Or the rim. Yeah.
Doesn't really get to the rim.
Hey, we're used to that, though, yeah.
Well, yeah, he's very much this kind of small point guard prototype that I think that you tend to see in these guys who are 6 foot, 6'1", right? Which is that they develop what they, other facets to survive in the NBA. In the case of Tyus Jones, he's got a crazy floater game, right? He loves to get in and touch 1 foot in the paint and then throw up a shot from like 10 or 12 feet. But he's not actually getting to the rim and he's not getting to the free throw line. That's okay. He's efficient from multiple spots on the floor. And most importantly, he knows how to make other guys' jobs easier on offense and facilitate an offense. That is what he was brought here to do.
It's a fascinating thing to think about the fit of this team. I have a couple of places I want to go. I think we should first start with the question of Monte Morris. Do you think the Suns knew that there would be a chance for Tyus Jones when they signed Monte Morris?
I think they probably thought that there would be a chance. I think it's almost more interesting to think about this from Monte Morris's perspective. If you're Monte Morris, have we looked up who's Monte Morris's agent?
No, I don't think it's Bartlestein, though, if that's what you're thinking. I'll check right now while you talk here.
Okay, I don't know who it is, but if I'm Monte Morris, first thing I'm thinking after Tyus Jones signs is I'm texting my agent going, dude, what the fuck? I hope he's still okay with the situation. And, I think regardless of if Tyus had come or not, Monte Morris was not going to be a starting point guard, right? So he was always going to be a backup point guard. He's still the backup point guard, but now it's a much more crowded field of talent in the backcourt for the Suns. And whereas maybe before it felt like the Suns really had to rely on Monte to be their guy who's in all of those critical playmaking lineups, now they could get away with playing him 15 minutes a game if they want to. Like, if that's all they need out of him, then that might be what he is. And I don't know if he's going to be thrilled with that. So we'll see. Do you have his agent pulled up?
Yes, it was nobody of consequence.
Okay.
I did check to see the player list, and same with Tyus Jones. Nobody that was interesting to point out on either of the client lists. Kevin Bradbury was Tyus Jones's agent, and Ron Shade is Monte Morris's agent. So nobody that I recognize.
It definitely feels to me like if the Suns knew from the beginning that they had a strong chance at Tyus Jones, that spot that went to Monte Morris on day one of free agency would have gone to a wing instead, right?
Yeah.
They didn't need to bring in 2 6-foot point guards. Yeah. Not that, I think they could still make it work. And, they're never going to turn the ball over now. This is great. I mean, if you had any issues with the turnovers in the offense,
or the defense,
it's
the transition defense.
It's just not going to be an issue anymore, right? And so the big gamble that they're making, I'm glad you brought up the defense there, is because these guys are not strong in the traditional sense defenders. The big gamble that the Suns are making is not only that they're going to juice the offense, Morris and Jones, that is, but that defensively, it's not going to matter as much, the fact that they're undersized, because if they just never turn the ball over, then they won't have to worry about transition defense at all, and they can keep everything to the half court. And if they can keep everything to the half court, they can survive defensively. I think that's the general philosophy going into this next season. We'll see how it plays out in practice. But of course it would be great to see, because the biggest issue last year, bar none, was the turnover issue. Yeah. There was a lack of size. There was a lack of willingness to take three-pointers. So a bunch of that stuff still exists. But the turnovers was number one, and they solved that in spades.
I'm going to go somewhere that you probably didn't anticipate here. So sorry if I'm throwing a wrench at you here, but does this... There's 2 point guards on the roster that are probably going to play significant minutes. Both of them would probably benefit from a rim running big here. Does it kind of feel like Nurkic doesn't fit as well on this team anymore? And I think that once they signed Tyus Jones, it almost made me feel like, do they have a Nurkic trade that they're lining up here? Is there something else happening here that doesn't quite make sense to me?
Are we not done?
Yeah.
We're still not done.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel, because I'm looking at this roster. If you're thinking about what Nurkic brings to this roster, and I don't want to downplay that he was good in the regular season last year, because I do want to talk about that too. I don't want to forget that happened. But not great in the playoffs. And what does he bring to the roster when he is good? Obviously, there's a screening, and I think his defense was better than we anticipated it was going to be. The rebounding is awesome, but can't really finish the rim. And you have multiple point guards now on this roster that would dramatically benefit from someone who could finish at the rim, not to mention the gravity that comes with someone who can finish at the rim, helping out players especially like Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. Especially
Tyus, who, as we just pointed out, can't really finish at the rim himself. He can. His percentage at the rim is, it's not very good. It's fine for a guy of his size, but, isn't going to be a guy who overwhelms people with speed and athleticism to like get to the basket, right? He just has to rely on other skills as part of his game. So yeah, it would really help Tyus and Monte Morris too, for that matter.
And if you think
to
about
have a rim runner,
the other thing that Nurkic brought to this roster, we know what it is. There was a lack of playmaking on this roster. Nurkic was important as a passer on this team. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I want everyone to be capable of passing on the Phoenix Suns. The best offenses come from the teams that move the ball the best.
Right.
But
you don't want DeAndre Ayton again.
I'm just saying Tyus Jones and Monte Morris are on the team. Do you want Nurkic being the guy making those plays when you have two guys who don't turn it over?
Yeah.
You kind of need those guys to be those guys, because that's what they're good at. They're good at not turning the ball over. They're good at making plays for other people. So if you surrender the offense into Nurkic's hands during those minutes, it starts to make less sense. You almost want somebody more limited in their offensive role as far as their ability to screen and roll to the rim and catch those lobs.
I'm not sure. The one counterpoint I'll say, I'm not, I'd be fine with trading Nurkic depending on what the return is. We've talked about this a lot already, but the one counterpoint I'll make in his favor, I suppose, is like, does he demand touches at the elbow, or was it kind of just like a necessary evil of what the Suns needed to do?
It's really difficult to put a guy
offense
who can't jump into the dunker spot.
Right. That's why I responded.
Have to demand it a little bit there.
There's videos of him shooting threes in an empty gym in Bosnia right now that are being posted on social media.
Please.
And that's why I'm referencing those on Twitter and saying, God, please, because that would solve so much for this team. But it also helps the fact that like the Suns did not go out and get. I mean, I talked about Dennis Smith Jr., who can like pass the ball, but he can't shoot. Again, because this was a month ago, and I didn't think we could get Tyus Jones. Or, like, they didn't go out and get Markelle Fultz, right? Like, there are point guards they could have gotten who can pass the ball and are point guards, but can't shoot, can't play off ball. And the fact that they got not one but two guys who can sit on the wing or sit in the corner and spot up and hit threes is fucking awesome. Right. I didn't expect them to be able to do that. Both Monte and Tyus can do that. And, I do think they're going to have a heavier role, mostly as the facilitators of the offense, but it's going to be fascinating, dude, because like I know we talk about like, oh, there's only one ball is like sort of the classical, like where all the touches going around, but you really start to consider like how Budenholzer is going to make all this work out. And, I think the Nurkic part of it is interesting, and I would generally agree with you that maybe they have something else lined up. The other thing I wanted to pose to you, though, about it that I think is interesting is Bradley Beal. We got to talk about Bradley Beal in all this. Mm-hmm. Because if Tyus Jones, like last year, Bradley Beal, the entire post-All-Star break, it was like, Bradley Beal, we're giving the ball to you. We want you to drive the ball like you're Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and not look for your own shot. Like, try and facilitate and get to other guys. And credit to Bradley Beal, he was by far the most flexible, adaptable guy when he was healthy last year. He tried to do things that he hadn't been asked to do basically throughout his entire career. And I don't think it was entirely successful on the court. I don't think it made the Suns ultimately a better team in the regular season or the playoffs, but he gets credit for trying. Now, here comes Tyus Jones. Here comes Monte Morris. Mm-hmm. These guys,
both players he's played with before, right?
That's great, by the way. But both guys who can spot up off the ball, but clearly what they were brought in to do is they're going to have the ball in their hands. Who's going to sacrifice the most yet again because of that? It's not going to be Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's going to get his 27 points per game.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Devin Booker. Devin Booker's going to get his 25, 26 points per game, right? Like, I feel reasonably confident that those two guys are still options number 1 and 2 in the offense.
As they should be.
And and they're going to be, hopefully, coming off more movement and more staggered screening and more compound. I won't even necessarily, I'd hesitate to say set plays, given some of the stuff KD has said about set plays
Play
online
random.
recently. But more
randomly passed to the open man, he said.
Just more compound movement in the offense is what we're looking for out of those guys, right? The real wild card becomes Bradley Beal. I was thinking about this today. Like, is it kind of a simplified, dumbed down way of thinking about it as Bradley Beal is now Grayson Allen, and Grayson Allen is now Eric Gordon? as we go into next season, as we simplify their roles. Like Bradley Beal is going to start, and he just I don't know, he might be a 15 point per game guy next year. If like I had to put my finger on a number, I think it's possible that he scores a lot because maybe they will have him leading a lot of second units. I don't know, but it just kind of feels like it's going to be hard for him to find a rhythm offensively, because I don't know exactly what it is at this stage that they expect him to do. How do you feel about Bradley Beal's role on the team right now?
I think that he's pretty good catching and shooting off the ball. So if he has to go into sort of a Bradley Beal type role, he'll probably be pretty good at it. And offensively, look, when I first think about this starting lineup, because we're talking about the starting lineup, let's just name them, right? It's Tyus Jones, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Yusuf Nurkic. That's what we're looking at as a starting five right now. So I think if you're taking the ball out of the hands of anyone, it's going to be Bradley Beal. Yeah, I think you're right about that. So he's probably going to be dribbling a little bit less, but I'm not sure that was good for the team. So this is good overall in the grand scheme of things for the Suns. I guess I'm not fully convinced that a point guard is going to make his life harder when it comes to scoring. I think there's a chance it actually makes it a little easier to have somebody that's capable of setting him up a little bit more, giving him the ball in scenarios where he can be a little more effective, instead of him constantly have to focus on getting other guys involved, which is something he's not actually good at. I think shifting him back to being a scorer could actually be good for him. But I do think when I think about the potential problems, I have to think about the defense. I have to think about the size of this team. If you just traditionally think about role players on championship teams, you have the offensive stars. You have typical offensive stars. They're going to be on every championship team. And then you have the role players that are in there to do all of that other stuff. And that means guarding the most difficult to guard people. That means getting the difficult to grab rebounds, jumping on the floor, fighting for the ball when they need to, chasing guys around screens so that the stars don't have to waste their energy doing that. This team does not have those guys, especially not in the starting lineup, at least as it's currently constructed.
They have those guys in their third string between Josh Okogie and Ryan Dunn.
As it's currently constructed.
But that's sort of the problem right now.
In the starting lineup, Devin Booker is going to have to guard threes, right? That's what we're assuming. He's now the small forward on this team. He's
getting a lot of practice right now for Team USA.
He's going to have to do it. This is now his job. Bradley Beal is not going to be hidden. It's impossible to hide anyone on defense on this team now. Because honestly, who do you have to hide? It's probably going to be Tyus, who's not a bad defender, but he's really small. So you can't put him against size in any way. He can get some steals. He can get his hands in the passing lanes. He can do good things on defense that'll help you. But you can't fake size.
Yeah, it's the Chris Paul thing all over again, right? You just can't hide him on just anyone. Brad's defensive role is going to be really important to this team. We need to see it in a way that we've arguably never seen it from him in his career, except for maybe 7 or 8 years ago with the Wizards. Well, okay, that's true. Yeah. No, but that's a good point, actually, because you know what? I forgot about that. Brad is willing to take on assignments that you would never necessarily expect from him based on just his physical frame and stature. And this is why it comes back around to offense with him, too. You say that you're not concerned about the offense with Brad, that he can shoot off the ball. He can. But I think it's just so important, if you're Bud, to stress to him that he can't overthink his role. Like, if I'm thinking about him as Grayson Allen now on offense, which, again, is a simplified kind of stupid way of thinking about it, but, like, pardon me, that's just sort of how I'm going for it. He needs to embrace an offensive situation where it's 1 or 2 dribbles and shoot or pass the ball. And it can't be one guy breaks down their defender for 7 seconds and then, seizes a little bit of open space on offense, passes on the perimeter to the next guy who breaks down his defender for another 4 or 5 seconds, right? Brad needs to be fast with it. He needs to play and think like a role player, and that's going to open up more energy in his game to be able to contribute on the defensive end in a way that we haven't seen from him before. It's yet another season of asking Bradley Beal to fundamentally change who he is. And that's a very challenging thing for him to have to embrace. But if we want this to work, then he needs to go for it.
Can we still call Devin Booker the best shooting guard in the NBA?
Because of the small
Because
forward.
he's going to be a small forward now?
Man.
And here's the other question on top of that.
That's tough.
Where does he stand on the small forwards in the NBA? How close is he to being the best small forward in the NBA? Who is the current best small forward in the NBA?
Well, it's funny because all the guys you used to think of as small forwards are power forwards now. Because LeBron is obviously a power forward.
Yeah.
Well, no, is LeBron a power forward?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because AD
he is
starts
now.
at center.
Okay.
That's like their whole thing.
Because AD starts at center, but they've done back and forth over the years. But yeah, LeBron is a power forward. KD's a power forward. Tatum, power forward.
It's Tatum.
What's their current starting lineup?
Well, it's Tatum and Brown are the two forwards, right? So who would you I think Tatum's a power
so Tatum
forward.
Power forward.
Yeah.
So Tatum's a power forward. Giannis is a power forward.
Yeah. Kawhi?
Not better than Booker.
Okay.
That's where we're going.
Right.
That's where
Is
he
Devin Booker
is
the
cooked.
best small forward in the NBA?
We have to be
Ingram?
missing someone. No. There has to
I
be
mean,
someone
Ingram's
else
a
good
small
that we're not
forward.
thinking
He's
of.
clearly better than Ingram, but Ingram is a small forward, right? DeMar
Who else
DeRozan?
is guys, we're clearly missing someone. Who else is a
I'm
small
looking
forward
at
in the
I'm
NBA?
looking at a list of ranking the small forwards in the NBA. This is by Steph No, who's a great writer. Stephen No is his full name, who writes for the Sporting News, and he lists Jason Tatum number 1. But you can quibble with that all you want. I think he probably is a Jimmy Butler.
No. Devin Booker's the best small forward in the NBA, folks. Let it be settled tonight.
All right.
The evening of the return of the Timeline podcast. Happy August, everyone, by the way. I don't know if I said that at the beginning. Happy August. Happy start. I'm dubbing August 1st as the start of optimism season officially.
Well, I appreciate that. Devin Booker can be the best small forward in the NBA now. We can start fights with that claim. Listeners of this podcast, whenever you'd like to start fights on the internet, Reddit or Twitter about that, feel free. I think it's a worthy argument to make. Anyone who people say is better than him, you could just say is a power forward until you get to Ingram, and then it's easy to say Devin Booker's better than Ingram. His own team doesn't even want him. So we're talking about defense a little bit more here. So if we're just assuming that now none of these star players can be hidden, the extent to which they have to be on top of it defensively in a way that Devin Booker was not last year. And I think KD was much better. I think KD did a good job defensively. He did his job. Like if KD was just as good defensively this year as he was last year, we'll be okay. Devin Booker particularly, I think, has to be better. And he's in a more difficult position. But I do think that Devin Booker struggles. It's almost better that he has to guard stronger people sometimes because he struggles a little bit more, I think, chasing guys around screens because it's difficult to put the kind of effort you need to offensively when you're just being run ragged around screens. But one of those guys is going to have to do it, and it might have to be Bradley Beal because it's not going to be Tyus every time. Teams have two guys that run around screens pretty regularly. So it's probably going to have to be Bradley Beal chasing guys around this. Okay, here's where I want to go with this, I think. Being that we're probably around in the second segment of this podcast. I think my question is, let me frame it like this. We talked about all the problems that this team had last year. One of the problems that we talked about was they were not fun to watch.
Yeah,
they were just not very fun.
I didn't know that's where you were going to go, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking regular season. Now, obviously, the playoffs were just an absolute train wreck, watching the Titanic sink slowly over 4 games, essentially, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the regular season was a slog. They never clicked. They never looked great. They never figured out a way to run an offense that was interesting or fun. It was not fun. Tyus Jones and Monte Morris, I think it's going to be pretty fun. And I think you could make the case that this team is going to be significantly better in the regular season with the moves that they made so far. Because now they have guys who can help set up guys to make this team better. There's going to be less turnovers, right? Because the turnovers were one of the most annoying parts to watch for this team. There's going to be more easy buckets There was a lot of difficult shots taken last year. And guess what, Sam? I don't know if you heard about this. They won 49 games last year. Mm-hmm. They could potentially win more, I think, with these guys, assuming that guys continue to stay healthy. And I even think there's a little more depth if they don't stay healthy as far as having guards that could help them out, because they really struggled with Eric Gordon backup point guard minutes last year. Not fun.
Yeah.
Not fun to watch.
Their third unit, I mean, it'll help, obviously, like Dunn and Iguodaro need to actually be something for this to be true, but their third unit is pretty good. Like, if they need to, at some point, tap on Damian Lee's shoulders or Josh Okogie's shoulders or the two rookies to step up and, like, give them some minutes, like, I feel pretty good about those guys being able to step up and do that. So those guys might be 11 through 14 right now on the roster, but they're all pretty solid. So I feel way better about their depth compared to last year. I honestly think, Mike, and don't hold me to this, I don't know what the over-unders are yet for their win total.
Not high. It's like 47 or something.
It's 47.
We'll see where it's at when we do our. We'll see where it's at when we do our episode. No, before the Tyus, I think. Yeah.
Okay. The Tyus signing changes a lot in terms of my prognosis of them as a regular season team, and the playoffs are a different beast. And I think we're going to continue to have the same conversations.
That's where I want to talk.
That's where we'll. Let's get there in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Let's use the next 3 minutes to appreciate that they're going to be a really fun fucking regular season team. That honestly, they won 49 last year. I think there's a path for them to get back into the mid upper 50s. The way this team is constructed is like, is that too much hopium on my part? Yeah. Just because this is the beginning of optimism season, or like it feels like
we have the best. We have the best small forward in the NBA, and signed a point guard.
But they signed two good point guards, like two solid point guards, and I don't know. Plumlee's a little better than Eubanks. Maybe that adds a win. But mostly it's just the point guard thing. Also, Grayson Allen, I know he's getting benched as a result of this move, and also I appreciate the fact that Shane Young asked him today if that bothered him, and he said no. In fact, he helped recruit Tyus because the two of them have played together before, both at Duke and at Memphis, the Grizzlies. Mm-hmm. So that's good. That's good to hear. Grayson is a guy who I've quibbled. Honestly, my only quibble with him last season, I think, was a matter of his confidence. And now that he's being benched, when I talk about Grayson Allen as Eric Gordon, Bradley Beal is Grayson Allen, and Grayson Allen is Eric Gordon, I need Grayson Allen to be Eric Gordon next season. And what I mean by that is, yes, like if you're great, how many minutes did Grayson play last year? 30?
Yeah, but probably more. I think he ended up playing the most overall minutes, didn't he, or something close to it. Because of he was healthy. Maybe KD did.
Look, if this is a fully healthy team, oh my God, he played 33 minutes per game last year. Yeah. If this is a fully healthy team, Grayson's he's not sniffing 33. He's getting maybe 24 now. And I need him to not come out, because what I'm a little bit afraid of with Grayson, he has all the talent in the world to make a run at sixth man of the year. He's right up there with any other sixth man from a talent perspective, but he might come out and touch the ball once and launch up a three, and then he misses. And then he kind of retreats back into himself and runs up and down the floor for 4 minutes and gets a bunch of cardio and isn't really looking for a shot. No. He needs to have a sustained level of confidence, even when he is missing, the true Eric Gordon way, and just be ready to simplify his game and look for his own shot in a way that I don't really think, like, I thought he was being such a team player last year, but I think he has the talent to, like, he could play fewer minutes this season and score more. It wouldn't be that crazy, in my opinion. It would just require a little bit of a shifted mind frame.
Coach Bud is going to make him launch. There's just,
I hope so.
It's just he has to. Like, I think he took a lot of shots when he could last year, and there were occasional shots that he turned down, and we just need those ones that he turned down to turn into shots, even if it takes him down to 40% from three instead of 47 or whatever he ended with last year.
He took 6 threes a game in 33 minutes. I'd like to see him hit that same number in 24 minutes. I think he could do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's, you know, and another thing, like, I talked up his pull-up three all last season. Tyus Jones can hit a pull-up three, by the way, too, folks. He shot 39% on pull-up threes last year. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the fact that he can come off a screen and play make for others, or that he could stand in the corner and make a three, which, yes, he can do. But he also shot 39% on pull-up threes.
They're not going under on him, yeah.
on a volume of about 1 a game. I do think it's funny. Have you watched a lot of his shot? I do think it's a little funny watching him shoot because he's a small guy.
He's got the short guy shot. Yeah.
Well, it just requires so much power.
You put it all into
base.
it. Yeah. It's how me and you shoot.
Yes. But we're not in the NBA, right?
True.
So it's funny. It's funny to watch him do it too because I haven't watched enough of him intensely to know if the refs call him out on this. But for Tyus Jones to shoot a pull-up 3 requires him to kick out his legs so far just to get it. And I think it's just a natural momentum thing. I don't think he's intentionally doing it. But I will be curious to see if the refs call him on that sometimes once we start watching him every game, because it is a little bit funny watching him do it.
I guess the question is, and I don't want to bum people out. I want to start by saying I'm very excited about the season, and I think they're going to be. If the main thing is they're way more fun to watch this year, I'm pretty happy. If I'm being honest, I'm not going to put championship expectations on this team. They didn't earn it last year, so I'm not going to constantly do that. Would I appreciate that if they did have those expectations and they did achieve it? Obviously, yes. But I'm not going to let that weigh down my confidence and my ability to remain excited about the upcoming season. But I do want to say, based on the additions they made, and they do have the opportunity to change the team multiple times before the playoffs come, do you feel as though they dramatically improved in any way as a playoff team with these guys? Being that they have to play so small to do it now with Devin Booker at small forward and Tyus Jones being that starting point guard, assuming he is starting. By the way, it's, to me, if we didn't make it clear, it's clear that he was promised a starting spot or told that he would start, because he wouldn't say that publicly if he wasn't told.
Start.
Yeah.
He's going to start. By the way, he did his media availability today, and I've watched Tyus Jones for years. He's been on good teams. The Grizzlies were a good team for years, and he was their backup point guard.
And he started a lot of games for them, and they were good when he started.
Yeah, but I'd never really heard him speak, and I was impressed at his media availability today, just in the sense of, you think about the type of person it would take to face NBA-level ball pressure and never turn the ball over, the level of poise that requires. That's how I felt listening to him talk as well. Very just calm, mild-mannered, but spoke very professionally about what the Suns expect him to do and how he's going to make lives easier for everyone else, and how Grayson was recruiting him and Bud was recruiting him, and went all down the line, James, Matt Ishbia, all those guys. So I was impressed hearing Tyus Jones speak. I think he's going to be a good locker room guy too. We're talking about their ability to perform in the playoffs. This is why they're not a finished product, right? I don't think we're going to consider them a finished product until the trade deadline. I think we're going to continue to have these conversations about, are they one piece away? Do they just need a little bit more size? Do they still need a Nurkic trade? And they could be a very, very good regular season team, but I think we're still probably going to be having those conversations because you just look at the history of recent NBA champions, and there aren't really any cases of what was it we talked about a couple weeks ago on our last pod, where how many of our top players are 6'5" or under?
Yeah,
What's the count at now? 6 of our top 7 players are under 6'5", or something like that.
Yeah, so let me look at the roster. I got it right
Can
here.
you think of an NBA champion who falls under that particular classification?
Now, if we're including Devin Booker as
pieces?
6'5", which without shoes he is, okay? We can say he's 6'6". We'll just include Devin Booker in that group. Right now, the players in that group are Tyus Jones, Monte Morris, Bradley Beal, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Josh Okogie, Damian Lee, Devin Booker, and Nazir Little.
Yeah.
So, and the players out of that group, let me just read them. Ryan Dunn, EJ Liddell, who's currently on the roster, Jalen Bridges, Drew Eubanks, Mason Plumlee, Oso Ighodaro, Kevin Durant, Yusuf Nurkic, and Bol Bol. Those players are a lot worse on the average.
Not Drew Eubanks, who's gone. I don't know why he's still
I don't know why.
Page,
that's a good point. He's still on this list, but yeah, that's Mason Plumlee.
The only guy who has an argument to be in the Suns' top 6 or 7 players, obviously, is Kevin Durant, who's arguably number 1. But outside of that, Nurkic has an argument.
He definitely was last year. In the regular season, he definitely was.
In the regular season, he was. In the regular season, Nurkic was probably their 3rd best player.
Yeah. Oh God.
But going into
we never have to think about that season again.
Going into this season, the way we have to think about it, I think, is KD, Book, Beal. You could make a case that Nurkic is not one of the 6 best players on this team.
Yeah. I mean,
Which
I would
would
hope
mean
so,
that-
because that would be bad if he was the third best player again or fourth best player again.
Right, but that would mean 5 of their top 6
It's
guys
tough.
are 6'5" or
And
under.
see, this is why I think they could.
Has there ever been an NBA champion who has done that,
No,
right?
yeah.
So it's possible that they just come out and they steamroll everyone, and they literally have an unprecedented turnover rate where they never turn the ball over, and their offensive rating is 130 points per 100 possessions. This is possible. It's possible,
And they'll
that this
be
happens.
very fun. Yeah.
And they'll be very fun. But they still get into the playoffs, and they're still going to have to deal with certain matchups that would scare you.
In the right situation, they could still win a
your
playoff series.
If your
or two.
wing
Yeah.
defenders,
Yeah.
if your wing defenders, quote unquote, going into the playoffs are Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, and Bradley Beal, then we're still going to be having these conversations.
And in the starting
about,
lineup, they're Devin
is it
Booker
right?
and Bradley Beal. And this is, I think, another part. It's not just necessarily a size thing. I think you can ask the question: how many championship teams have their best offensive players as their most important wing defenders as well? And it's a small list. It's Michael Jordan and Kawhi Leonard. There's just not a lot of guys that are out there winning a championship as the most important defenders too. Usually, in the modern NBA, those roles are taken by role players who are capable of allowing the star players to sort of rest a little bit defensively so that they can give it their all offensively. And this team does not have the ability of doing it. They have opportunities, I want to mention again, to improve the team later. But I think they potentially dramatically improved in the regular season, while not really improving in the playoffs at this point. And I think they have the opportunity to, even just gelling and playing better under a new coach and buying in fully to their roles, could make them improve in the playoffs. I think just from a roster standpoint, I don't think they added a ton of players that would make them a better playoff team right now. It's not to say that they won't still potentially be better, because the right matchup could just make them better. Minnesota, I think, particularly
also
posed a size problem that made it really difficult for them.
Right. Also, if they don't win 49 games next year, but they win, let's say, 57, I'm not promising anything, but let's say it's feasible, we're not talking about them as having to go into someone else's home court in the first round anymore. They should be able to get deeper in the playoffs just by virtue of picking on, if they win more games, they're probably a top 2 or 3 seed in the Western Conference again. Would be a lot easier.
Some quotes from Tyus Jones. He said, "The fit was perfect. I want to hoop. I want to get out there with the guys, build our camaraderie, build our chemistry, and ultimately we're competing for a championship. That's our end goal." He also talked about how he went to college with Grayson Allen. He talked about that as well. It wasn't just Grayson talking about that. He mentioned that Grayson Allen helped recruit him. Grayson Allen essentially recruiting the guy who's taking his starting spot. I mean, those of you who say Bradley Beal should come off the bench, he's not going to. So you can say it all you want, but he's not going to. And so Tyus, I think one of the big things I think that came out of this that I found interesting was Ramona Shelburne said he potentially turned down as much as 4 times what he's making on the Suns to play on the Suns this year.
I didn't see that part.
Yeah, she said it on Twitter. Tyus Jones multiple times mentioned the players and people that were recruiting him. He mentioned Coach Bud, obviously. He mentioned James Jones. And he mentioned Matt Ishbia. Multiple times talked about Matt Ishbia doing a good job recruiting him to the team. Now, Matt Ishbia obviously has not been a perfect owner of the Suns so far. Last season was kind of, at times looked okay and at times looked like an absolute train wreck. But one thing he has done is shown NBA players that he's willing to do what it takes to try to make the team as competitive as possible. And that if it's a question of money, it's not a question. It's just completely out of there. That's not a question. It's just, I'm going to do what it takes. If it costs more money, I'm going to do it. Now, it doesn't necessarily make Tyus Jones more money. But if there's a move potentially at some point in the season, or even in the future, if Tyus Jones ever stays, that would be a money question. It's not going to be a question. And that's just a good thing to have an owner where a player like Tyus Jones, who has the ability of making money elsewhere, comes to the Suns because he believes in the organization, he believes in the players, and he believes in the owner. It's a good thing. Yeah, Tyus Jones he's not an all-star, right? He's kind of barely a starting point guard, but he would be potentially the best backup point guard. So it's still a minimum contract deal for probably the best player available at this point in the market.
for a guy who is easily worth 4 or 5 times what we're paying him.
In a position of need for the Suns, regardless of, if Monte Morris was supposed to be that guy, it still was a position of need for the Suns. They needed somebody else to be able to set these guys up for easy buckets.
Do we think part of Matt Ishbia's pitch to Tyus Jones was, hey, I know what it's like to be a 5'11" point guard, and you remind me a lot of my tenure at Michigan State. Do we think that was part of the phone call?
Did you see Matt Ishbia posted some highlights on his Twitter, by the way?
I didn't.
He played in his annual UWM game for his mortgage company where he played with his employees, and get this, he was mic'd up. These guys,
I'll go watch that. I'll go watch that after.
Yeah, it
after
was mostly him being
here.
tired, which I give him credit, man. He's in his 40s and he's out there playing, so I still give him credit for being out there and trying. But he did post some highlights. Maybe that's what got Tyus Jones on board, honestly. He saw that and he's like, I'm in. That guy knows hoops. I just want to hoop. Anything else that Tyus Jones said today? Today was his day to be introduced to the media. Anything else he said today that stood out to you that you wanted to talk about?
Not especially. I'm excited about the fit one last time here. I'm excited about the fit. I'm excited about an offense that just should have such an easier time and should be a lot more fun to watch. And we'll revisit this conversation probably a million times between now and February, but especially in and around February to see if we feel like it's working or not. To the extent that, we want them to be not just a successful regular season team, but also a successful playoff team. So to be determined on that front.
I'm excited as well. Two Olympic Games have been played so far by Team USA. Devin Booker has started both games. Kevin Durant has started none. Is that a surprise to you? He played both.
It's hard to talk about the Olympics and the job that Steve Kerr is doing here specifically because on the one hand, I think he's doing a great job. On the other hand, I think it's very easy for anyone to point fingers and say Steve Kerr is a horrible coach and anyone would be doing a better job. And, why isn't my guy playing or why isn't my guy playing? He's doing his best to be a diplomat and everyone is playing. Okay. Jason Tatum was benched in game 1. He played him in game 2. Embiid was benched in game 2. It was already announced that he's going to start again in game 3 against Puerto Rico. By the way, Devin Booker is going to start in game 3 on Saturday against Puerto Rico. That makes him 3 for 3. So he is the glue at this point. Like he, I think, has solidified his vision in Kerr's mind as the glue of that starting lineup. He's got the best plus minus, and he is the guy who's making the sacrifices that they need in order to win. But yeah, other pieces are going to rotate in and out. I don't want to watch Joel Embiid in the starting lineup again.
I don't want to watch him on the bench either. I want to see him just not playing at all.
I didn't. Why? So I didn't get to watch today. Bam was awesome.
Of course,
apparently,
yeah.
Captain
so
Bamerica
is his name now.
What?
Captain
His name is what?
Bamerica.
According to who? Did he
internet.
give himself that name? Oh, that's not very good.
Yeah, I didn't come up with it.
Well, he was very good apparently, and I'd love to see more of him and instead of Embiid. Honestly,
well, there's just a lot more space for him
to watch.
There's a lot more space for him to roll to the rim when he's not playing with another center in Embiid or in Anthony Davis, because what the rotations have been so far was Embiid in the starting lineup. There's two other awesome centers on the team in Bam and AD, and they played together, so it was difficult, I think, for both of them to get theirs at the rim. AD was awesome in the starting lineup today, regardless of the plus minus. We just look at it; it just looked way better with him on the floor. And then Bam coming in off the bench, there's so much more space out there. It was Derek White sort of replacing. Derek White and Drew Holiday came off the bench. Drew Holiday didn't start in this game. Jason Tatum played with the starters, so KD was out there with them. So there was so much space out there for Bam when those guys were out there playing. So Bam just had a lot of room to get to the rim and get some dunks in. And he made a 3. So he was awesome. But like you said, I think the story for us in talking about this is that Devin Booker is starting. And I think it's been fascinating. Two things for this. Fascinating to watch him play and accept his role. And then the other thing is fascinating to watch how people react to that. Because it's a very weird thing. It's sort of this tell that either you don't know ball if you don't understand what Devin Booker is doing for this team, or you're desperate for some content for the team that you cover. So you really want Jason Tatum to play because you run a Celtics blog. So you're going to take it out on Devin Booker because who else are you going to take it out on? At this point,
right,
it can't be Drew Holiday, it can't be Derek White, because guess what?
Exactly.
They're also on the Celtics. Yeah.
Yes, because you run a Celtics blog. Yeah. It's funny though, because I do think mostly people are coming around now that the Team USA is 2-0, and Booker has played well in both games, and he played well in the exhibition games before that, and he's already been announced as a starter in Game 3, like I said. So I think people are coming around, and we exist in a highly polarized, heavily terminally online environment.
Agenda-based, yeah.
Agenda-based. It's very easy to listen to the loudest voices, but just because they are the loudest does not mean that they are actually in the minority. And so I think most people I am seeing are coming around on Devin Booker. Either they already liked Devin Booker, or they're national pundits, or other people who are giving him his due.
And they watched Jason Tatum stink it up today.
For the job he's doing. Yeah, was he that bad?
Yeah, it was not good. He was not good at all.
I saw he got like a pity first bucket
alley-oop
in the third quarter.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah, the alley-oop in the third
His
quarter.
His first shot
like that.
from the corner bounced off the side of the backboard. He just didn't look good. He just didn't look good. And Jason Tatum is good, and I think he should play, but off the bench. I think KD should start. It's pretty clear who should be the starters on this team. I understand what Kerr is doing. He's trying to get everyone equal time playing over the course of the entire Olympics, not necessarily in every game. And that means that it might be a game where Devin Booker doesn't play at all. Maybe he does make that decision. Right now, he's clearly not going to. Booker, LeBron, and Steph are the only guys that seem to be starting every single game so far. But to me, the starting lineup should be Steph, Book, KD, LeBron, AD. Start those 5 guys. It's going to be great. Steph has not been great. And if you look at some of the stats for the starting lineup, some of that is just because Steph is not hitting the shots that he normally hits. Those will start going in at some point. And I think it'll probably be helpful to play a little bit more of his style with AD in there. He's getting a lot of open shots in this game. He didn't hit them. But what Booker does in these lineups, I think, is kind of fascinating because Steph is kind of operating more like a shooting guard in a lot of these lineups. He's really not handling the ball almost at all. He's doing his runaround screens off the ball, and LeBron's hitting him right when he gets to an open spot. On the other hand, Devin Booker, on the other side of that, it's fascinating to watch him on a team with LeBron where they're actually trying to compete. Because we've seen him play with LeBron in the All-Star game. Those aren't real basketball, right? All-Star games are fake basketball.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like mildly entertaining if you're a fan, obviously, but you don't get any actual insight out of those games. It's not possible.
I'm watching this fit between LeBron and Devin Booker, and it really does feel like LeBron has always succeeded the most when he's had a secondary playmaker on his team to help run sort of secondary actions when LeBron is off the ball. And it does kind of feel like, wow, Devin Booker is the perfect guy for this. You know, the way that Kyrie Irving at one time of LeBron James's career was the perfect guy for this. And it's
or Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade obviously was that guy at some point. Yeah. And, you know, that's probably a better comparison for how Devin Booker plays. Obviously less athletic than Dwayne Wade because Dwayne Wade was a freak athletically, but a similar type of player in that a prototypical shooting guard who can play make for others is what Devin Booker is. And, you know, as someone who grew up watching LeBron James, obviously, and now watching these Olympics, is kind of coming to terms with LeBron James retiring soon because this is clearly going to be his last Olympics. We're not going to see him in another Olympics after this.
Never say never.
Yeah, that's true.
Could you imagine
if Jason Tatum is the future of Team USA, we might need LeBron, to dust off that cape.
Olympics. Yeah. They're in LA. He doesn't even have to go anywhere.
That's
he
true.
could just stay in LA.
Well, there's something really cool to me about seeing Devin Booker, who also grew up watching LeBron James, is younger than me, so in more ways than that, grew up watching LeBron James, just kind of slot perfectly into that role next to him and just play really well. Now, he's not shooting a lot. He's not trying to. Truthfully, he's not looking for his shot a lot. Really, it's only at the end of games that he's taking mid-range shots at all. Other than that, he's kind of getting to the rim in transition. If he's playing in the half court, he's focusing on finding other guys or shooting wide open threes, and that's it. Outside of that, have you ever seen Devin Booker guard guys full court? Because he's doing that every game now. he's starting all the way down the court and pressing up on guys for the entire game. It's something that we've never really seen of him, and something that most star players outside of Drew Holiday, who's been doing that his whole career, are even willing to do. So we're seeing him take this role defensively that we've never seen him do before outside of the Olympics, because he did it 3 years ago, because that was the COVID Olympics. And then offensively, just kind of slotting directly into this essentially point guard role where he had, I think, 6 assists today. We're recording this on Tuesday, and 5 assists in the first game that was on Sunday. And he's just like becoming this, he's just so malleable, so moldable within what they're asking him to do. And it is harder, I think, for some people to recognize how important it is to have guys who can do that, because they think Tatum can score, he should be in there. Drew Holiday's a better defender, he should be in there. Yeah, but Devin Booker does he kind of does everything right now. He's kind of the guy filling in all those gaps, being willing to be the guy that fills in all those gaps around them without any complaint or without looking for his shot too much when other guys need to get going. It's been really awesome to watch.
Yeah, his game has developed to a point where he really can contribute everything on both ends of the floor. The only thing that's missing is, like, if Devin Booker was 2 inches taller, then I think weirdly everyone would be so much more in love with his game, right? Because there would be this kind of athletic, tantalizing physical aspect to him that's like missing a little bit, that you know, like just how basketball nerds fawn over players who are like 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan or whatever. And it's like everyone wants the Mikal Bridges types. Everyone wants those types of players. So if Devin Booker looked more like Mikal Bridges, everyone would love his game a lot more. But he does what he can do within his physical profile. And it turns out that he can actually be a damn good defender when he puts his mind to it. So hopefully this is a sign of good things to come for this upcoming season. If we want to continue with the trend that I was talking about before, Devin Booker is now Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is now Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen is now Eric Gordon.
And Kevin Durant remains Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant remains Kevin Durant.
Can't change that. He's Kevin Durant.
I don't know what.
Don't need to change.
I don't know what Eric Gordon is now. Who did Eric Gordon sign with? The Sixers?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know who Eric Gordon is now. I can't think of a Sixer.
All I'm saying is these people on Twitter, these people on Reddit, they need to recognize that they're watching the best small forward in the NBA playing in the Olympics for Team USA, and they should appreciate that because they don't even know what they're watching.
Damn straight.
You got anything else before we go?
I don't think so.
Welcome back.
Coming up.
Puerto Rico on Saturday.
Puerto Rico on Saturday.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to watch that one. I'm looking forward to that one for Team USA. And, you know, keep an eye out. Maybe the Suns have something else left in them. They still have that 2031 tradable pick. I would be shocked if it wasn't on the table for any specific type of trade. And let's be honest, Grayson Allen can be traded now. I'm not saying he should be. But we're coming up on a date in the next month and a half, 2 months, where he can be traded.
I don't want to lose
Grayson. And he's not starting anymore. That's all I'm saying.
I don't want to lose Grayson. I'd much rather lose Nurk if we have to choose between the two. But, you know, Tyus can't be traded, especially, like, no one's going to trade for that $3 million contract, anything worthwhile. And same applies for Morris. And the same applies for... Yeah, it's just there's really only 2 contracts that feel like they can be moved on this roster.
Yeah.
So we're going to be having a lot of these conversations.
We will get back... We'll be back Monday, and then we'll be back on a regular schedule starting Monday, which means the beginning of the week, Sunday or Monday, will be a regular feed podcast. Midweek will be the Patreon podcast. We're going to bring those back starting next week. Thank you all for sticking around. Thank you all for staying subscribed in that Patreon. We'll be back with more content for that soon. Maybe even hoping to watch some film of some of the new guys on playback, and we'll post that video on Patreon sometime over the next few weeks. We appreciate you all. Welcome back, Sam, and we'll both be back very, very soon.